get into the details for the newspapers. And Daily Heritage this morning, the 27th of February 2017, says Kokrobite Manches capacity as chief set aside. Health, no herbal medicine cures HIV/AIDS. And the DVLA on blame game over rickety vehicles. Attorney General set for trial of Achimota SHS student. Star Life Assurance to donate bags to University of Ghana. Okay, so 29 illegal miners attacked by chickenpox in prison. Serves them right. The Daily Statesman, Ghanaian businesses lost $6.58 million to malaria. Fraudsters impersonate business development minister on social media. Joshua Labi says nobody should be denied tertiary education. That's according to Professor Joshua Labi, who has a new school. I'm sure that's why the statement is coming about. Defend the poor and fatherless. President charges police. And you find President Akufo-Addo in a tete-a-tete with acting IGP, Mr. David Asante too. Let's build a just, prosperous society, Minister urges. Kweku Asometreme, Brongahafo regional minister says so. The Finder newspaper says crude oil, dollar stresses economy and expect 2 hospitals, 2 schools. That's according to President. He is assuring the police. And Abesim water plant shut down. Fraudsters impersonating me on Facebook. Minister Suba grabs contract in Sierra Leone. Ghana welcomes $1 trillion World Trade Organization trade facilitation agreement. The Punch says Paul Ansah made Director General of GPHA. Ioko not after Ibrahim Mahama. Ikwapim North prefers Chumesi as MCN. Scramble for SNIT. Baumia Kenoforiata fight for surrogates. Business Day says, well, every Ghanaian owes 4,519 Ghana cedis. And Gold Stream Business, agriculture pivotal to job creation, says a great minister. Existing cooperative unions to merge. The BNFT for this morning says government to open to borrow more from IMF. And let's see what's on the front page of the Daily Graphic, Daily Guide, and the Ghanaian Times. Daily Guide this morning says NDC sells cars cheap. Names pop up. Corrupt customs officers in trouble. Suba wins more contract. MP's girl hangs. Well, that's a very sad story there. The KNUSC. 12 tankers go up in flames at a Shaman timber market. Yes turns to greenhouse revolution. 18 Ghanaians rescued from xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Depoliticize issues affecting economy, said Tekla says so. And first year KNUSC student commits suicide. One school of thought says it was because she was under pressure. She had trailed some of her subjects. Another school of thought says, well, she hanged herself because of broken heart. We'll get to the bottom of things. Kobe is poisonous. Who told the Ghanaian Times this thing? Professor Frimpong Boateng. Kobe. Beyond that fufu comment by Dr. Mensah, whatever, now Kobe, one of my favorites, he says poisonous. Fire guards finesse oil yard, and Ghana committed to deepening ties with the US. Okay, so you know what's on the headlines, so now you can go out there, grab a newspaper. But I'm joined in studio by 2 wonderful guests. Honorable Kwame Agboja is the Member of Parliament for the people of Adaklo constituency, and he's joined us here on the ticket of the NDC. Honorable, welcome.
Morning.
Cheers. And lawyer Vicky Comley Bright. She's a member of the MPP's communication team. Council, welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank
Absolutely. How was the weekend for you? Yesterday it rained.
Yes, I've been in the village, just returned this morning. Very wonderful.
dumsor is back. I thought we were told that it was solved.
Yes, like anything, if you have fuel in your tank, in your vehicle's tank, you know that you can go to a destination, but you know it's not going to take you forever. So it's your job to keep replenishing the fuel in your tank. I believe it's early days yet. We've basically increased capacity, as we all know. We've made provision for fuel to power the plants. The new government need to make the necessary arrangement to continue to fuel those plants and to maintain them periodically so that they can last. I think it's early days here to say dumsor. I want to be fair.
Well,
Dumsor has
is it not back? Because my lights goes off every now and then. Yesterday it went off, and if it is not back, I don't know. If it's a mechanical fault or a technical fault, I don't know.
Surely not mechanical. But,
so what is it then?
I think let the minister and his people explain this to us. It will be interesting to see what they will say. And I am of the view many things in this country shouldn't be political. It should be things that are left with technical people to deal with. But we have all been caught up in this thing that even if it rains and the gutter, if I throw beans in the gutter in my front of my house and it gets choked and it rains and they get water floods my house, it's the president's problem. And this is why it is going to be difficult for us to get out of this. I want to avoid saying it's NPP's fault yet.
Right.
Let's see what.
Well, we're not saying it's NPP's fault. We're just asking. We're told in the run-up to the election that it's been solved and completely so.
Of course, we had challenges with generation capacity, which we know we don't have today. We have diversified many of our plants, so not all of them don't run on gas or diesel or crude oil. We have, Kosombo Dam and then Bon Dam. We have a mixture of things that we can use. We were told that by Friday, the minister told us Friday, that the problem would have been gone, but I know it continued over the weekend. I don't know the status this morning, but I think let them deal with it. But I can tell them it's not going to be rhetoric. It's not going to be blaming the previous government that will solve it. You have to get to the bottom and deal with it.
To the extent that we're running on power barges. They were running the nation on power barges.
Yes, yeah. Well,
it's not a good thing, is it?
Well, I'm not sure whether power barges per se is like a bad thing. It was a fast-track way of deploying.
It's more like a stopgap measure,
yes,
not a long-term effect.
And oh no, you could keep it as if people have
for 10 years.
Yeah, people have the national grid connected to their houses, but they still have a standby generator just in case things go wrong. But I don't think the power barge was a problem. And indeed, ask ourselves, assuming those power barges were not there, what would the situation have been? I think the NPP should tell us their blueprint of solving this problem perpetually. That is why I thought they were a bit, let me use the word, not harshly, naive by thinking that they would be able to remove the energy sector levy and be able to manage this thing. We're waiting for the budget to see whether they will be able to remove the energy sector levy and still bring the price of electricity down in this country. If they don't, the Ghanaians will know that they basically conned us into that mindset.
Conned is quite a strong word.
Oh no, it's a smart word. If somebody thought he's smarter than you,
well, the budget is in 4 days, so let's hope. But Vicky, did your lights go off over the weekend?
Briefly, yes. Briefly, yes. But just to respond to that briefly. I think in January, GRIDCO and VRA did a joint statement actually telling us to expect some disruptions to the power supply because of remedial works that they had to do to connect 10 to Atwabo. And the problem is that the minister explained over the weekend that these works have gone on a bit longer than they expected. Talu asked for an extension to actually complete the work. So I think the works are now completed. So let's pray that with the increase now in the flow of natural gas to the Atwabo plant, we'll be able to improve.
But the minister was specific. He said that by Thursday, Friday, it will be a thing of the past. It's Monday. Yesterday, my lights went off. Saturday, it went off as well. So
yes, I think as I said, Talo asked for a bit more time to do testing, and obviously these things have to be tested. But, the works took longer than expected, and once you finish it, you have to do quite a lot of tests. Right.
But on the back of the fact that it was a major campaign promise back then, and now we're seeing a totally different picture, if you will. Businesses are beginning to get worried as we speak now. What's the assurance for them? What's the blueprint do we have?
We've only been in power for 6 weeks, so we just want Ghanaians to bear with us a little bit.
How long?
A lot of work is being done. I don't know what the timetable is, but what I do know is that this is something that is at the forefront of the government's, President Akufo-Addo's thinking. He understands the importance of power to the economy. The plans that he has for Ghana, that his administration has for Ghana, cannot be rolled out fully or effectively without a reliable power supply. Right. So, I mean, you know, it's something that will be fixed, and it's something that is being looked at very, very, very seriously.
So the assurance is that it will be fixed,
yes.
But we don't know the timeline.
We don't know the timeline, but we know that time is of the essence for all of us, for ordinary Ghanaians. It affects, I mean, it permeates every aspect of society. Right. Without power, without a reliable supply of power, you cannot develop as a nation. And development is key on our agenda. Right. So it is one of the engines that will, you know, or fuels that will sort of lead to our growth.
Right. Okay, so you heard them. What do you think about the situation? And Council, someone was also asking, well, perhaps if we're going to have these, you know, temporary, you know, not dumsor, you say, but light off, light on, we should at least have a calendar or, you know, something to guide us, because the lights just go off. You don't know, and it goes off and it comes on. I had to use a box iron to get the shed ready for work.
You did a good job with that.
Yes.
I was brought up in the barracks.
Wow.
So you need to know your left from your right.
I would love to have one of those. I haven't seen one since,
yes,
you know,
I
was a child.
So the young kids watching, that's a box iron.
Yes.
That's a box
iron. You know, you put the fire in it, you bring it out, and then you wipe it.
Everything.
Yes, you test it, and then before. So
wow,
if not, you
white shirt.
yes,
Wow.
if not, you mess it up. Because my dad's, you know, he was a senior officer, and his white shirt was in his garb.
Yeah.
So
right.
you can't get it wrong. If you get it wrong and there's stains, you won't go to school.
Yeah.
And you get a few belt whips.
That's good discipline.
But just to add to what she said about the tie, you see, it is also important that when things like this are happening, the country gets to know exactly how long it will take. Right. It's not unusual that when you are doing a major tie-in to one of the biggest investments we have made in this country in the oil and gas, which is the 10 field, to get to Atwabo, right, you should expect that there will be some distance. But today, we expect that the country would understand that it's not the incompetence of the government that the job.
I thought you said we won't go there.
No, it will prolong longer. I'm just saying that so that we don't revisit that again. That is not the incompetence of the government that made the tie-in go beyond a period of time, but just that it was a necessary time needed by the engineers to do that. And I'm sure if this happened under an NDC government, it would have been paraphrased differently. But today, we should accept that.
I thought you said you wouldn't go there.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying, that I am not blaming the government, because the engineers need that. And just to remind Ghanaians, sometimes she made a mention of 10. Okay. When we talk about, you just said every Ghanaian owes, how do you call it, 4,000. But they don't tell us how much we own. 10 fields is partly our property.
Right.
It's always important to know that these monies that we call, and I said the abstract things about economy, boils down to the physical things that we do. And 10 fields is a testament of that, because what it means is that we're going to have our own dedicated source of gas to power the plants that can possibly stop the dumsor. This is the investment President Mahama was putting in, and that is why maybe a lot of money didn't come into my pocket at a particular point in time, but going forward. But
you didn't explain this before the election. Why are you explaining now?
No, we did. We
did 4 years to run the government.
We did so many times that sometimes
nobody heard you.
Well, we'll leave that to another day, but that does not take away the fact that certain investments, when you want to make them, will take away your resources. Just like in our own life, we take away resources from other things.
Agreeably, we agree around this table that some work has been done. We need to improve upon it, get a lasting solution for this, and that's what
they will still need to do more.
That's what we are all looking for.
And
we have assurance from Council, on behalf of the President.
I'm happy they talked about renewables as well, so that the mix is not reliable on only hydrocarbons, but we can add some renewable, and also energy conservation in our own homes.
Right.
Architects, engineers need to start designing houses that can reduce the amount of energy required to make us feel comfortable in our office or home.
Speaking of architects and engineers, not many people go to them for to have their homes designed. People have the basic masons and carpenters, put up structures which will collapse,
very dangerous
at the slightest, and that's a problem around. It's across.
Yes, it's a huge
it's
problem.
a huge problem.
And then you get electricians who are not qualified to come and do the wiring, and leading to fires and all sorts of things, fatalities. We have to be more disciplined as a society. We really have to be more disciplined as a society, and we have to start doing things properly. If we want to progress, we have to change our own habits across the board.
And I think the architects and engineers need to be seen more. You see, it's quite easy for you to see. I wouldn't like to represent myself in a court of law. I would get a lawyer.
Right.
When my kid is sick, I would get a proper doctor or a medical practitioner to do that. Right. So why is it that when people want to build a house, they think anybody can build a house? Why do you think that anybody can design a house? And I think both the engineers, architects, the people in the built environment, and the government need to work on that. Elsewhere, you can't even change your window without permission.
Right.
But in this country, you can build a mansion, and there's no documentation as to whether anybody approved it.
Is aware somebody is.
Look at what happened to the school kids.
Yes.
That's a typical example of
And
that's just one of how many. Too many of them.
Yes.
Just one of too many.
And we never get anybody punished. Elsewhere, even a dodgy pavement that makes somebody hurt the foot, is somebody going to cough up money in terms of compensation.
Right.
This country, an architect, an engineer, or anybody can put up a house for you, collapse on the following day. No. I think that the legal practitioners, some of them need to be specializing in how to deal with the professionals in the built environment who have been negligent, so that at least one or two people made as scapegoats.
The problem with us, and council perhaps will tell you, somebody knows somebody. So, you drag the matter and somebody will come to you and say, well, you're related actually, you're long distance cousins, and before you know, you've been talked out of it. And council, is that not the situation?
Well, it is part of the problem, because this is why I say we have to be more disciplined as a society, because somebody will come to your house, or they'll send their grandmother in the middle of the night to go and hold somebody's leg, at midnight. And we have to stop those habits and actually realize that as a nation, as a continent even, we want to go to a certain place. And in order to go to those places, we have to have a clear roadmap. And the clear roadmap involves a huge amount of discipline and also enforcement of our legislation. A lot of the time, you find out that there's actually legislation governing everything in this country and beyond.
Yes.
But it's the enforcement of it that's the problem. They are not enforced.
Yes. Speaking of that, yesterday it rained. Dubai, Circle Dubai, it got flooded again. And, after all the investment, the talk, and it's not necessarily the fault of the engineers, as I've come to know, but it's our attitude. Yesterday in the morning, I found heaps of refuse out there.
The rubber bags.
Yes, out there. The hawkers are back there again. And it's just so sickening if you think of it. It's not the best for us. And we do these things to ourselves, as the Honorable says. We'll come back and say, the president must fix it. Fix what?
We have to help ourselves. We should not expect government to do everything. We ourselves have to be disciplined within ourselves. And people don't often realize that, if you are eating your kagari or whatever and you throw the plastic bags there, it actually has an impact on somebody else. And if everybody does that, eventually there will be a flood if it rains, and people might end up dying. So it's the education as well. This is what the NCCE and all the civic education guys have to be doing.
Do they have the resources to do that? That's the next question.
Well,
they have always complained about resources.
That's another question. I know that we are going to take that organization more seriously. That is something that the president wants to do. So in terms of educating Ghanaians about civic responsibility. So that is something that's going to be done, because they know what they're supposed to do, but I think their hands have been tied.
I noticed also that if you look at the kind of, I'm not too old, but back then, the kind of education we had, life skills, religious and moral education, general knowledge, and all of that, it boosts up and puts a certain patriotism in you. So you don't go about doing anything. These days we don't have them. We're busy to throw them out and focus on I mean, gardening and everything, sewing. It was all part of what we learned in school.
Life skills. And, you know, when you think about the curriculum now, even things like verbal and quantitative reasoning, you know, these are very critical things. When you go to England and some of the developed countries, critical thinking is a key part of the syllabus. It's compulsory.
Right.
So we have to make some of these changes in our society.
Honorable, finally, let's move on.
Well, I think it's sad to see Circle flooded again. You know, the reasons for the improvement works at the Circle and now going towards Obiche Bilante was, first of all, to decongest and to provide easy and safe access for vehicles and pedestrians. That has largely, and also to work on the drains, that has largely been done. Like you were saying, if you have a situation where we ourselves go and dump solid waste into those drains, the water has little chance of freely flowing into the channel. And unfortunately, if you watch, when it was completed, it was getting close to the heat of the campaign, when people were being told that you are no longer going to be allowed to come and squat and do other things here. It was becoming as safe, well, if you push us, we would vote against you. And that has always been the bane of some of the things. You are asking, it's not the job of any government to go and provide money for anybody. MA and other things. When you find people, you use that money to do those things.
In the meantime, the pedestrian market is there. It's empty. It's right by the side of the interchange.
But believe me, let the new AMA boss, whoever he's going to be, take a strong stand that I am not going to tolerate this. It will become political football. Look at what Dr. Okuvanda was doing around those places.
Right.
How much support did he get from all the political
parties? In fact, towards the end of the year, towards the campaign, he also left it and went to campaign at Ablekum.
Yeah, because he wasn't getting the traction he needed from the
But he didn't need traction to do that.
No,
he needed to do his work, regardless.
Yeah, well, regardless, that's what I'm saying, that in this country, much of the things will boil down to how people perceive this to be politically correct or incorrect. And I'm saying we needed somebody who will be able to do this without and damn the consequences. Yeah. When the president said, the former president said, look, as far as he's concerned, teacher training people should just be, they are tertiary now, they should just be like any tertiary this thing. So we're not taking this allowance away because we want to punish you, but we think it's just a fair game.
Exactly.
Somebody says no, took advantage and say, look, we'll give it back to you. So they give it back to them. The point is that, does that, I mean, if I'm a teacher, I should be asking myself, when I finish, I should be looking for job security rather than how much allowance I take in school. But somebody's choice is like, I'll give it back to them. And the president said what? What did he say? I'll damn the consequences. I'm not going to reverse it.
But then we know that towards the campaign period, some amounts of monies were released to that effect. So
we never.
We know that the nurses were giving some 3
Let me
months.
explain. We were supposed to do the same thing we have done for the teachers. That is, migrate them to become tertiary institutions.
So that 150 Ghana cedis that was paid, which a certain Mahama in Kumasi was sent home.
These are the facts.
What was the purpose?
We were not able to pass the law to make them tertiary institutions, so they don't technically qualify to take student loans that like is supposed to be available to colleges of education and other things.
Right.
And the technical committee working on it says that since we were not able to do that, then it is unfair to take away the allowances while they have not also been migrated, so they are losing on both sides. So give it back to them until you are able to pass the law and give them that tertiary status. So it was never an U-turn to do that. Then we've explained that. Otherwise, we would have been giving it back to.
Let's get into some other details. Daily Guide Page 3
work better for somebody.
Daily Guide Page 3 reports that the controversy surrounding the acquisition of state properties, particularly vehicles, by members of the Mahama-led administration, does does not appear to end anytime soon. This is because a new list has emerged detailing how the NDC government under John Mahama auctioned about 250 vehicles belonging to the state to its appointees and other staffers within a period of 3 weeks. According to a former appointee of the Mahama administration, Sam George, about 271 allegedly missing vehicles from the president's office were sold to some officials of the NDC government. The mass sale of the vehicles, majority of which were offered at ridiculous prices, was done between December 23rd, 2016 and January 7, 2017, in the period of the transition when the NDC had been heavily defeated by the NPP and the former party was way out of government. And a photograph of Sentina Tamaklo Ationu, Stan Dogbe and Jifativo there. Council, these issues of vehicles will never go away. We saw a letter that was supposed to have been written in 2015 following the President's State of the Nation address in 2014, President Mahama then, that the practice of selling and acquiring should be had signed the letter. I have a copy of it here. But then the practice still continues, and here we are, names are popping up now beyond what John Yosef Kofi said, beyond what the Administrator General said, and all of that. Will it ever go away?
Well, I think it will go away when the right thing is done. You know, because
What's
basically the right thing is that people know there's a clear, as you said, there are letters and all sorts of communiques and things indicating that this is a practice that has to stop. It's been signed by the Chief of Staff. The new administration has come in to actually uncover the fact that this was still going on.
Okay.
And it went on at a period when it had no business going on during the transition.
Right.
It was not disclosed to the transition team. We didn't know anything about it until we are actually in situ, until we actually assumed the reins of power. So it suggests that the whole thing is underhand. It is wrong.
Okay.
And what is wrong is wrong. And what is wrong, if it's wrong, it has to be punished. That is my view of these things. You know, because how long will we continue doing things which we know are not correct and still expect to get away with it because I am so and so or I'm so and so? If the president has given an edict that don't do this, I mean, who are you to then come and say I'm doing it anyway? I don't know what you said. The thing is dated the 15th or
Right.
so, or 2015
Exactly.
or so. I don't know anything about that. I don't know when the whole thing was actually written, whether it was indeed written on that date, whether it was backdated. I don't know. What I do know is that during transition, there are very clear rules.
Okay.
Rules that bind the whole transition process and the do's and don'ts of that process. And you are not supposed to do a whole load of things, which unfortunately our brothers and sisters on the other side.
Hold on a bit, Honorable. Let me read. It says 14 April 2015, cancellation of schemes on purchase of houses and saloon cars by retiring government officials. In the 2014 State of the Nation address delivered to Parliament on 25th February 2014, His Excellency the President directed that schemes on the purchase of houses and saloon cars by government officials at the end of their tenure should be stopped. Implementation of the directive took immediate effect. This letter is formally to inform all ministries, departments, and agencies about the enforcement of the directive and advise them to cease sending applications on the subject to this office. Signed by Chief of Staff Julius Deborah to all honorable ministers, regional ministers, metropolitan municipal district chief executives, copy to the secretary, to His Excellency the President, the Flagstaff House, secretary to Vice President, all chief directors, regional coordinating directors, and sorry, all heads of departments and agencies. So this is clear, and the Chief of Staff says, don't send me any application, but they couldn't obviously have bought the cars we're being told about now, if the Chief of Staff had not okayed it.
Right, exactly. So this is what I'm saying, that it's double standard. It's as if the letter was written just to make it look good and be filed somewhere, and then the practice continued anyway. But as far as I am concerned, if that is supposed to be the case, and they flouted it, then to me it's an offense. It's something that has to be investigated.
Will we see it in 2020? That's the question
Well,
now.
I don't think we shouldn't see it in 2020, because if the government decides that that is the new policy, then everybody has to adhere to that policy.
Right.
I mean, taking state-owned properties is a criminal offense. You know, it does not belong to you. You have no business putting your hands in state property. It's like putting your hands in the state's coffers and looting money. Some of these homes and other things were there before you came. Right. They'll be there after you leave. If everybody who comes in wants to buy their house or their car or their this or their that, are we forever going to be taking monies that we don't have to be buying things when every new government comes so that they can, you know, the new lot can have it and take it away? I mean, are we serious as a nation? This has to stop. It has to stop. And people who have blatantly flouted this have to be dealt with the full force of the law. I think it should be investigated. And if it is found, some of the things that Sam George is saying and other people are saying, if they are found to be true, then the people have to be dealt with. I mean, nobody should be above the law. We are all subject to the constitution of this nation and to the laws of this country.
Honorable Abuja says, from the list, former ministers of state, presidential staff, CEOs of corporations, and even journalists and chiefs, among others, all grabbed the state vehicles at giveaway prices at the time President Mahama had outlawed the sale of government properties and appointees. And a few of the names, as for example, Edwin Neelante van der Poel, former Minister for Youth and Sports, got 2015 Toyota Avances from the office of the president, while President John Mahama's trusted lieutenant, Stan Dogbe, had 2014 Toyota Avalon, the same car driven by the president when he was in power, with former Defense Minister Benjamin Kubo grabbing 2014 Toyota Camry from the office of the president. It goes on and on. Jafar Tivo, who supervised the famous 3.6 million bus branding and resigned from government, you know, it goes on and on indeed. Now we are hearing that the cars were bought. Earlier, we had Johnny Osekofi, former deputy chief of staff, saying it wasn't bought, it was inspected, 641 vehicles. They inspected it, they know it, they are playing politics, equalization with it. But this is the new thing we have now. Where do we go from here?
This is no new thing. Let's segment these things properly.
Right.
I've never served in government, but I know my colleague served. Has she ever bought? Did she buy because I knew previous government did allow their members to buy them.
Exactly.
To them, it was okay.
Exactly.
So they decided to buy them. May I ask her if she bought one or she knows anybody who bought state vehicles when they left the government?
Well, I mean, I at the time, the policy was as it was. You know, we are talking about now, 2016. We are not talking about 2008, which was the last time we were in government. And in 2016, the then president, the outgoing president, had a policy. So we are talking about what was the policy.
No, he made that one quite clear to all of us. So I'm asking.
But the point is that what was the policy?
But counsel, if you make the points that you know, the vehicles were there before you came, they will be there after you are gone, the houses and all of that, and now we say that the policy was not then
my question is quite simple.
No, what I'm saying is this, and I don't want us to confuse the discussion and drag us back to President Kufuor's administration. Because since President Kufuor, there have been three presidents. We are now on our third president. So let us see how we can move forward as a nation. My point is that President Mahama came out with a policy, okay, and I think it's a good policy, and if people, the ministers who are serving in that administration have flouted the policy, then it is not correct. So people are grabbing. I'm not going to go into President Kufuor's administration.
No, I just asked you a direct question.
I'm not going to talk about personal issues, and I'm not going to go on about an administration that was 3 administrations back.
So
it's ridiculous.
She's sitting here saying that it is wrong. If it's wrong yesterday, it is wrong today. But when it was their turn, it was right. That's what I'm asking.
But she puts a caveat.
No. I don't want words to be put in my mouth, please.
Hold on. She puts a directive, and indeed, the agreement that President Mahama had.
I'm coming there. I'm saying that
is the main point.
Is it the president's directive that made it wrong, or is it a moral thing that when the state builds a house and you occupy it, don't buy it? That's what I want to know. But obviously, she decided she was not going to answer the question by whether she bought a vehicle, or she
don't
knows
think we
anybody.
should be personalizing
But
these
I think the viewers,
Okay.
the viewers can see.
Hold on,
The viewers can see where my question it was and how it was answered. I asked a direct question. I've never served in government. I've never bought any state property. I asked her, have you bought one, or do you know anybody?
Will you buy one if you serve in?
No, I wouldn't. Okay, let's move on. You see, I am happy she said that it is wrong.
Right.
It is wrong that, assuming she becomes a minister, she's given a bungalow that has been there, and then when she's going, she buys it. The next time her son, fortunately, becomes somebody in their party and gets appointment, where will she stay? Where will he or she stay? But we know that in this country, people in in their previous government actually bought state properties. I'm talking about, may he so rest in peace. Jake went all the way to Supreme Court to say that it was a legitimate thing, it was morally right, and they bought it. Not too far from here, the site of the how do you call it, the foreign ministry was a property that chopped off and then sold to them at cheap prices. President Mills came, seized those property, refunded the money, and that is what they're doing. So I agree with her entirely that we can't go on this forever. I'm happy if anybody
live in state property.
Fine, exactly.
I did not.
Exactly.
So I just don't want to personalize the discussion.
Yeah, no,
I did not even do that.
It shouldn't.
You know,
it shouldn't be personal. Right. I'm saying that I agree entirely with her principles that when states invest in things, the fact that you have become the latest beneficiary doesn't mean you should keep it forever. Right. So what Jake may he so rest in peace did should have been condemned by everybody, including themselves those days. What those people who owned the site of the how do you call it, the current foreign affairs ministry. We were there. I mean, just a month ago when Honorable Ayoko Bocho was being vetted. Have you bought state property? Oh yeah, it was offered to me and I bought it. She said it, that she bought it. So I'm trying to find out, where is NPP on this thing? Is it a moral issue, or it just like pick and choose when it suits you? Does Honorable Ayoko Bocho believe in what my colleague Vicky Bright is saying, right, or her principles are different? And does that tie into the current president? I think we shouldn't be able to have the ability to buy off vehicles or all those things.
We must have a national standpoint.
Yes.
Don't offer it for it to be bought.
It's not for sale. It's just like if something is not for sale, you can't buy it. It's as simple as that. Right. And it shouldn't be based on your political sentiment. And it should probably find its way deep into the Transitional Act that this is not allowed.
Thankfully, you are in Parliament, so can we count on you to raise these questions?
As she may know, you probably know, it is very difficult for Parliament to be the initiators of policy.
Well, the current speaker says he wants
I support him
on
that. He's trying something that I think can work for us all. That is to, when things becomes topical issues in the nation, instead of us waiting, and he did that when few statements were made, and he directed that the statement be filed to the minister, right, and the minister should come back to the house, right, and tell us the steps
what they are doing
exactly.
About.
That could find its way into a policy.
So you can raise this on the floor of Parliament.
Well, we could do that, but we need
are you going to raise?
No, we need to take this holistically with the Transitional Act, because you notice that for some strange reason, this particular transition also came up with some problem. Right. The previous one did. We corrected some things, right, and I'm sure we will get to a point where we can have a neater Transitional Act that make things clearer for everybody.
So, Honorable Kwame Agboja, can we count on you to raise this at the plenary if you have a chance to?
I have my way of putting my things across, and I can push for leadership to see whether it is going to be possible for them to do that. And I say that it is always good. Yes, members of Parliament should have passion and be able to express it, and for it to find itself in the expression of law. I basically was very unhappy with the way Parliament sits lately, and I said the Speaker took it up. Fortunately, when the President came to the House, right, he reiterated the fact that he abhors the temptation of Ghanaians never to turn up on time. Okay. And believe me, after the President left, the few days after the President left this thing, every time Speaker, in fact, to be honest, Speaker always come to Parliament on time. Right. It is the inability of all the support system to come and support him to come onto the floor on time that delays him. Right. But for the whole of last week, he turned up exactly on time. And I thought that
the Speaker comes to work sometimes before 8 a.m.
Exactly.
We have had early interviews.
Exactly. And I'm saying that if Parliament, Speaker, members of Parliament can do that, it begins to be showing leadership by example. So if I'm invited to a program, you tell me 8 o'clock, I appear at 8 o'clock. If the people don't turn up on time, have the courage to tell them, you asked me to come at 8 o'clock. Why are you not here? That is the only way we can solve it. And the president said he would endeavor to be on time at every function. And I said, look, then he's got an ally in me. Whenever he turns up at the function that I'm supposed to be there, if nobody turns up, the two of us will be there on time. And I think that's a good way of building a country.
And
Yes.
just to, sorry.
Yes.
No, yeah,
yes.
no, I'm just saying, just to add to what this whole discussion on the vehicles and all that, for me, it's very simple. As a lawyer, for me, it's very simple. If there's a policy or a law, some kind of legislation governing something, it has to be obeyed.
Right.
If the country, the government decides that, well, they want to sell state-owned vehicles to ministers who have served, fine, if it is taken as a decision. But the point I'm making is that there was a clear policy decision that this will not be done. I agree with that policy decision. And it was done. And it was done in a way that the vehicles were not sold at market value. So that is the point we are making here.
And the value of the vehicles.
So you don't go back and say, where does Shirley stand, Honorable Ayokobotri stand, where does Vicky Bright? No. It's a question of what was President Kufuor's policy at the time? Okay. What was President Atta Mills' policy?
Can we have a national policy instead of having just the president?
That's the next point I was going to make. Yes. So let us get to a point where we have a clear policy. So it doesn't matter whether it's an NPP administration or an NDC administration, everybody knows it's the rules of engagement before they decide to accept a post. And once you go there, you know what you can live with and what you have to leave behind. Period.
But you see, it is also good that sometimes when you know, I'm not talking about her, you have benefited from something and they are accusing somebody of benefiting, you should be measured in the way. Isn't it amazing? There are people who probably are driving in town today from in NPP who bought those properties are mounting the moral high horses, pretending that they know morally this.
Well,
this
at least
wrong.
we both know that it's wrong.
Yes,
and the conversation now must be:
but
what do we do as a country?
What did the joint transition team, the last joint transition team, what did they say? Did the transition team say that? No, I know that the transition team said that this practice have been long-standing. So they attempted setting aside the letter from the chief of staff.
Okay.
Yes, that is a fact. You can go and check. Because they said it's been a long-standing thing. So the cure, the panacea to that should have been something that should find expression in the Transitional Act. Then it's because the act is an act. So if you go contrary to it, you can be cited for that particular act. But because it didn't find expression in that, you are now going to take somebody to court because of a letter. How do you call it? The chief of staff wrote. I doubt if you will be successful on that. So I agree. Let's go and find those expressions in the Transitional Act. Then it's been outlawed. Then it's not the choice of NPP government or NDC government to let people have these vehicles or houses and other things. Then we'll all be safe.
Right. BNFT says government open to borrow more from IMF EIU and with government scheduled to open discussions with the International Monetary Fund about possible extension of the 3-year bailout program following several mixed fiscal targets in 2016. The Economist Intelligence Unit, EIU, believes the government could take advantage to borrow more from the fund. Now, we were told, senior minister mentioned it at his vetting, he also from for that, we'll look at the IMF thing, possible truncated. Later on, we had the message that, well, because of A, B, and C, we may continue and end it. Now there's an opportunity for us to, there are talks that, we may extend it and push on. What exactly is the position as we speak now, Council? Are we going to borrow? Are we going to stop? Are we going to finish? What are we going to do?
Well, I think the budget statement is coming out very soon. So let's not preempt what Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta will be saying.
Right.
But for me, something led to this situation. Bad fiscal management, the very, very bad policies which led to the country being in this current situation. And as we have said, I know our brothers and sisters on the other side are having all sorts of disputes about it, but we have now found unexpectedly a $7 billion hole
Right.
in the economy, which we could never have seen before we actually took on the reins of power. So we have been confronted with a situation which the whole nation knew was bad anyway, and it's been compounded. And there have been, I think the IMF has come once since we took over from the NDC administration. And so several discussions have been going on and went on, and they are ongoing. My view is that we have to do what we have to do as a nation to survive, because this country is not, as President Akufo-Addo said, that he's not going to allow the economy to collapse under his watch. So we have to do what we have to do. Thankfully, which
includes borrowing.
Which includes borrowing,
But
yes,
we're told at the campaign
borrowing.
that we're not going to borrow. We have enough to generate internally to run the economy.
But 7 billion is a lot of money.
So we didn't know about the 7 billion.
How could we have known about the 7 billion?
And yet we were calling the shots and making.
How could we have known about that? Because we were working with the same figures that the IMF was working with.
Right.
I mean, and I don't think it's an unreasonable thing for us to work with those figures. I mean, nobody would let you close to all the figures and facts and everything if you are from an opposition party. So what we have is what is out there in public. And what is given to the IMF, I think we are entitled to rely on. Everybody, the whole world was relying on those figures. Now, if we have come in and we've realized that those figures are not exactly what we've been told they are, we can't just say, oh, well, they're not, and we roll over and die. We have to do something. And it's 7 billion. It's a lot of money, you know. So if that means that we have to adopt certain policies for the country to remain standing and for us to be able to implement the growth policies that we have to improve the economy going forward and stabilize the city, etc., then so be it.
Does it shatter your plans of reducing taxes, abolishing some of the review, the downwards, what the senior minister called nuisance taxes? Does it shatter the plans?
It doesn't shatter the plans. It just means that we have to think, we have to think harder about how to do those things. The promises that we made to the Ghanaian people, President Akufo-Addo is very aware that he was voted in on the back of those promises. And so he has said to Ghanaians that I will deliver. And President Nana-Addo and the administration will deliver on the campaign promises. Otherwise, when we come back to the people of Ghana in 4 years' time, what are we going to say? In fact, in 3 years' time, 3.5 years' time, when campaign begins again, what are we going to say to them? So we are very conscious of our responsibilities to Ghanaians and to Ghana as a nation. So yes, we've gone there. We've found problems. We're not going to sink. We're going to get up. We're going to swim. We're going to get up, dust the dust off our clothes and keep walking.
Right.
So that is what we are trying to do. And the budget statement is coming. So let's wait. Let's all be patient and let's come back and discuss it when it's out there.
Honorable, good news.
Very, very deceptive information put forward by the NPP. First of all, you notice that when the 7 billion thing came, they pretended it was money stolen. Basically, what are these monies? These are projects or programs that are always around. That is probably the uncompleted road project somewhere else, which hasn't found its way to be captured as in terms of how much we owe, because contractors, other things haven't provided certificates and other things. So that could be a road project leading to your village which hasn't been completed. So it wasn't never a missing money. You see, Ghanaians need to ask the NPP. Dr. Bawumia is no more talking. He pretended he knew everything about this country. Isn't it amazing? Those who castigated us for going to IMF, that they can run this country without borrowing. Today, they are pretending they are no longer supposed to be competent because they found some 7 billion that they claim they don't know about.
They haven't said that. Dr. Bawumia isn't talking because after elections there's no campaign.
No, because everything. Don't forget, we will not increase fuel prices. Fuel prices have been increasing. We would reduce utility tariffs immediately. And the energy, they've never reduced. Let's get to the bottom of this thing. NPP is saying that they are not competent enough to generate. That's the bottom line. Generate internal resources to manage this country.
They didn't say that.
So hold on. So they are going to borrow money, extra money, to run this country. So what are they going to? In fact, if they borrow, they should be able to do better than NDC in terms of infrastructure deployment and everything. They can't do that. I can bet my last money in my pocket.
How do you know they can't do that?
Hold on. I can bet the last dollar in my pocket. The finance minister cannot remove the energy sector levy on Thursday. I dare them. Remove it. They can't.
Why? Why can't they?
Because they lie to Ghanaians and they think that all they needed to do, lie your way, get power, and then begin to backtrack gradually and find little mistakes and other things. Is it? You would have thought that when I have to be cautious if this information is coming from a senior minister, because he took us down on
this from EIU actually.
No, you mentioned him in the listen and said that how do you call it?
At his vetting,
free SHS was going to be funded through this thing, and then the finance ministry people came and said that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Another thing, the finance minister is going to come, and I can tell you that don't expect energy sector levy to be scrapped. They may
what if it is scrapped by Friday? What happens if it's scrapped by Friday?
The bet they may do is to christen another thing, which will give them that back, because you see that levy actually gives the banks the encouragement that the investment we made into the energy sector, which is an asset to us, we are going to be able to pay. Look, $2 billion investment in the energy sector of this country. It's not debt.
We're told we owe 24.
No, they claim 2.4, but we know that it's just about 1.5 billion. But look at the infrastructure we have in the energy sector.
But we still owe, don't we?
Yes, but who doesn't owe? Who doesn't owe? I owe. The first time I bought a house, I have to take a mortgage. You understand? If I have a mortgage somewhere, that's not finished.
I have to respond to that.
We don't have a lot of time.
I have to respond to that.
She has confirmed. He said they are drowning or they are swimming. They have to.
They are not sinking.
I have to respond to this. This is not right. Look, we got to this place because of the incompetence of the NDC administration. When they inherited the economy in 2008, it wasn't like this.
The inflation was 18%.
And before that, they had plunged the country into HIPIC. We rescued this country out of
No, you didn't rescue us.
We did.
You had $5 billion debt
and the country was well managed until they came. It's their 8 years of incompetence that has led to unprecedented borrowings, and you have had more resources than any other administration since independence.
Anybody who borrows is incompetent.
To dig this country out of
is going to borrow because he's a highly incompetent.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No. Ours is about competence.
You are going to borrow competency.
Thank you.
And if you borrow competency,
Lawyer Vicky Bright is.
So you are going to borrow
Lawyer.
No,
thank you.
You are the incompetent.
Thank you. Lawyer Vicky Bright.
Counsel. By Ghanaians.
Counsel.
Ghanaians rejected your
Counsel,
policy
thank you.
because you are incompetent.
Counsel, thank you very much. I understand.